Um, all right, three, two, one. Hi, everybody. So I hated how I did that intro just now, but we're just gonna have to go with it because that's where we're at. Welcome to Ask Tiffany. I'm super excited because I have a special guest here. And when I have special guests, the shows are always so much better than when I do it by myself. So I'm excited to have Linzy here. Linzy Bonham has written an article that you no doubt read. If you haven't read it already, hurry up and get back and read it. And then we're going to do a couple Ask Tiffany episodes where we break down, get into the nuts and bolts of finances when it comes to your private practice. I'm super excited. Linzy, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm a therapist in private practice. That's my one hat. So I've been in private practice for 3 years, and I'm based in Ontario. But my other hat that I'm wearing right now is I am a consultant and I help other therapists with their finances. So my goal is to help other therapists feel calm and confident about their finances so it stops like stressing them out all the time.
Beautiful. I love it. We desperately need you because so many therapists are stressed about their finances all the time.
Yeah.
In the third Ask Tiffany video, we're going to actually dive into my finances, not technically because I don't have them pulled up, but we'll be doing a little bit of like how you actually think in the room with folks when they come in to work on their finances. I'm very excited about that one.
Me too.
So in this one, you wrote this article that is fantastic, that I'm super excited about, that talks about how to be a good boss to yourself.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm excited about this is because, to be honest, when people work for an agency job, it's really easy to be like, I hate my agency job. It's so unfair. My bosses suck. Oh, I just want to get out of here. But the fucking reality of it is, when you're in private practice, that's where the rubber meets the road. There's no one else to complain to about how bad things are, which I think actually keeps people in agency jobs longer because it's much easier to sit back and complain about someone else not treating you right than actually get into private practice, where the reality is, if you're doing it right, awesome. If you're doing it wrong, you're going to know because you're not going to have a sustainable business.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about this idea of being a good boss to yourself.
Yeah. And like, it's exactly like you said, like when we're in an agency, there's lots of stuff that, we can complain about or feel stuck. And there are lots of things that do suck about agencies, also good things. But when we're our own bosses, like what I've noticed is that it's so easy to slip into actually treating yourself worse than your agency would have treated you. Like in ways that would actually be illegal for your agency to treat you. Like if your agency didn't put aside taxes for you, like they would be shut down, by like Revenue Canada or the IRS, like they would be in such gross violation, right? But working for ourselves, we easily do stuff like that, like not save enough for taxes or like work insane hours that would break any labor law. And there's kind of this hustle state of mind, which I like hustle. But hustle, sometimes we use it to excuse just kind of treating ourselves really badly for long periods of time, not even necessarily in startup mode, like 3, 5, 10 years into our practices, we can still not be taking care of things and not treating ourselves like a good employee at all.
I love that. I love this idea that I've never actually thought about that. That what so many therapists in private practice are doing would actually be illegal if they were in an actual work setting.
Yeah, like it's that bad.
That's crazy and absolutely on point. So if we are thinking about some of the ways, you've written this article that talks about 4 ways that we could be in private practice, can be good bosses to ourselves.
Yes.
Let's start with that was number 1.
Okay. Number 1 is that good bosses take care of the money, right? And so at agencies, like there's often administrators tucked away in offices that we don't even see, right? And their entire job is financial management for that agency. So their entire job is making sure that like bills are getting paid and that the staff are being paid the right amount at the right times and that the lights are going to stay on and that they're on budget. They're not like running an irresponsible, practice that's going to go under in 5 minutes. And there's people whose entire jobs involve that. And now, as you said, like we don't have anybody else, like it's just us. So that means that stuff is now on your plate. The good news is we're not agencies. So, especially if you're running a solo practice, it's just you. So it's a lot less to manage. But actually having your eyes on the numbers is really important. And it's easy for us not to do that, especially like if we're busy, we've got our like heads down, we're just kind of getting through. But one way to be a good boss to yourself is to stop and take a look at those numbers so you actually are working with real information, right? When we're not working with real information, like when we don't know what's happening with our finances, we're often working on how we feel. Like, do we feel like we're doing well? Do we feel like this was a shitty week and we're going to have to like close down our practice and go back to a crummy agency? And it's all emotions-based. It's not actually even any information at all, right? So one way is to start to keep your eye on your money, pay attention to your money. And we'll talk about some of the ways to do that, you know, as we chat.
I love this. And one of the things that strikes me, one of the first things you said was, when you're working for an agency, you actually have a whole human being and maybe even a whole department that's dedicated to this finance stuff. So when you started out by saying, you know, I have my therapist hat and I have my financial, you know, consultant hat, it makes me think therapists often wear their therapist hat to do all the things, including the money piece, which then brings in the emotional part, and then it's all out of whack.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting to think about.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think other, you know, people have written about this and talked about that, about in a business, we do have to play multiple roles. Like, we're practitioners, and that's what brings us into private practice and what keeps us in our field. But you do also have to think about managing, and you have to think about admin and the background stuff. And we have to wear all those hats when we are our own business.
That's right on point. Okay, what's number two? Second.
Number two is don't work yourself into the ground. Yeah. So this builds on number one, right? Because when we don't know how much money we need to make, when we don't know how much we're making, most of us just tend towards scarcity mindset, and we just work more. It's just like, yeah, sure, I'll just cram an eighth person onto my day, right? Or like, I don't work Fridays, but I could work this Friday, right? It's like we have such fear around clients not coming, or clients that we have not staying, or clients leaving us if we don't, you know, meet their evening needs or their Friday morning needs or whatever, right? And so it's really easy for us to exhaust ourselves and just work so hard all the time, and it's so unsustainable. So it's starting to think of how much do you actually need to work, and that's where you can use the information, right? So if I know that I need to work and bring in $5,000 a month into my practice, and that's enough to run my practice and pay myself, that's a real number that I can actually see where I am and work towards that number. And as I see that my month is on track, and that even if there's a bit of shuffling, I'm set up for that number, then maybe I can take that day off that I need because I'm tired, right? Or maybe that's the point when I can move forward to like book a training or something, because I know I'm in a good position, right? I'm not just going kind of on how I feel. So I find that super helpful. I do that myself. And that's actually something that I've only started doing in the last like few months, where I've really been clear, like, what is my financial contribution to my household, right? And like, not like what's the minimum, but I want to make more, but like, what am I responsible for? And then I have real numbers that I can work towards, not just a feeling of having seen enough clients.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think of when we talked about the financial hat. Throughout all of these steps, you're talking about putting on your good boss hat. So as therapists, we may want to run ourselves into the ground, but if we can find a way to say, okay, now put on our good boss hat and say, are you taking care of yourself, Lindsay? Are you taking care of yourself, Tiffany? What does that look like? We can actually maybe step out of this grind and not run ourselves into the ground.
Totally. And when we have good bosses, like I have had a boss who, you know, would say, you know what, you're going through a hard time, and I'm actually not going to let you see 4 clients a day. I'm going to, you know, you have to see 3 for the next 2 weeks. And I might've been like, oh, I don't want to, but like, it was the right thing. You know, like I had somebody looking out for me, and now we don't have somebody looking out for us in that same way.
Awesome. Number 2, don't work yourself into the ground. Number 3, what's that?
Number 3, put aside taxes. Yeah. It's a little one, but it's a big one. And it's one that can be really hard. So this is something that I started doing from the very beginning of my private practice. Was whenever I paid myself, I would put money off to the side. And the way that I did that was through the way that I budget. I use a budget program. So I would just earmark that money and say, yeah, I paid myself $3,000, but $1,000 of that is actually taxes. Only $2,000 of that is for my household income, right? And another way to do that, that makes it even more certain that you're not going to kind of cheat and spend that money, is to set up a separate bank account. It's really helpful to get into the idea that that money is not your money. It doesn't belong to you, right? We're holding it for the government, right? And if you've ever been in the position of not having the tax money that you're supposed to have when it comes to your tax season, it can be a whole world of pain, unfortunately. Like, they're not very gentle about it. You know, you can have your wages garnished, and that sets you up for financial stress next year. So having that separate bank account to have the money and just put it out of your reach, whether that's attached to your business bank account or your personal bank account, it doesn't matter. Something that you can't touch easily, so that it's just held in trust for the government, is a great way to save yourself a whole bunch of stress.
I love that you said that money is not yours.
Yeah.
One of the things I hear therapists complain about sometimes, and I'm always like, come on, guys, is like, oh, I got to pay taxes. Oh, taxes are terrible. And I'm like, that is money that you're paying to make sure your roads are working, to make sure your kids have a school to go to for free, right? Like, one of the things that I think it's out of integrity to not want to pay your taxes if you're someone who lives in a world where those things are taken care of for you.
I agree. Yeah, seriously, what a blessing.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, and that's how I think about it too. It's my like, you know, I love having roads. Like in Canada, we have, you know, if I opt into a certain program, I get like a 1-year maternity leave. That's nice. I like that, right? So whether or not I end up, you know, taking X amount of mat leaves or taking a sick leave, I want to pay into these systems because it makes my world a better place and the world of everybody around me a better place. So yeah, having a gratitude mentality around taxes, I think is really helpful.
That is awesome. Go Canada.
Yeah.
You're in the States and everywhere else. And that's fucking awesome, that 1-year maternity leave.
Yeah, sorry for bragging.
It's okay. Okay, number 4. What's number 4?
Number 4 is paying yourself a salary. So I love paying myself a salary. And this is something else I did from the very beginning of my practice. Because again, when we work for an agency, we're paid a regular wage, right? And that wage reflects the fact that we work hard, that we've done training, that we have all this education, and we deserve to get paid a good wage, right? In private practice, what we can slip into is paying all of our business expenses first, paying for that $5,000 training, going on that training, paying for hotel, blah, 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 doing all these things to make yourself a better therapist. And then you're like, oh shit, I'm going to pay myself $500 this month. Right. And that happens. And I think as therapists, many of us are prone towards kind of martyrdom or maybe have some not good enough that we're grappling with. So it's really easy to prioritize our business expenses and making ourselves better therapists or taking care of our clients over taking care of ourselves. So for paying yourself a salary, what I found is really helpful is figure out that amount of money that's kind of your regular money that you can count on with the highs and lows, right? So one way to look at that is to look at your last 6 months worth of income, your last year's worth of income, and see what is normal. Because in the last 6 months to a year, you would have been sick, you would have taken some vacation time, you would have had those ups and downs that come at different times a year or just as a total fluke sometimes. So that's going to represent something that's a fairly normal rate, and figure out what that number is and pay yourself a little bit less than that number. And that means that you're going to be building a buffer. And I love buffers so much. I do. And that means that, you know, I can pay myself that consistent amount every month. And then I get used to running my household off that consistent amount. Like, again, I figured out how much I need to contribute to my household. I plan my life around that, you know, and my partner plans his life around that too. And then I can rely on that salary coming in every month, because I'm paying myself that consistent number that's a safe number.
I love that. And we're really going to dive into that idea. In the next Ask Tiffany video, we're going to talk about the holiday slump or the summer slump and how we can actually set up our finances so that that's not such a stressful time. And I think this is a key part of that. So I'm very excited about getting into that part.
Yeah.
In the article, I believe, I don't have access to it right now, you offer some actionable steps at the end. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Walk us through those steps.
For actionable steps at the end of that Be a Good Boss to Yourself article, which you should read, I talk about just 5 simple things. If you take nothing else from that article, number 1, open a business bank account. I'm such a huge fan of having separation between personal and business finances for so many reasons, but it's a super easy way to get your business finances on track. Number 2 that goes with that is to open a business credit card, right? So just keep your business totally separate from you. Think about it as a different entity. The third one is to start tracking. So you can use a ledger, a spreadsheet, software. That's how you actually start to keep track of the information so you can make informed decisions about your money, not just feelings decisions about money. Number 4 is to figure out how much money you actually need to make, so you can start to set goals and work towards those goals and take a break when you can take a break. And then number 5 is to pay yourself a good salary and put aside those taxes.
Beautiful. So folks, if you do nothing else, do those 5 steps. Definitely read the article and come back. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to have 2 more Ask Tiffany videos where we're featuring question and answer from Linzy. Linzy, where can folks find you if they have a question or they just want to learn more about what you do?
They can go to moneynutsandbolts.com.
Beautiful. I love that name. Your logo is on point. Very exciting. Yeah, thanks. And we'll see you guys soon next week. Okay. Hopefully I'll edit out that last part. Jeez Louise.
No, it's good. It's good.